A few months ago, a 74-year-old woman named Ellen sat across from me during a quiet afternoon clinic. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, but her eyes told a story. She leaned forward and said, "I think I've been hurting myself, and I didn't even know." Ellen wasn't talking about a fall or a medical procedure gone wrong. She was talking about something she'd never said out loud before, something many women her age still keep to themselves. For years she'd been pleasuring herself in the same way she always had. It was her little moment of comfort. She thought it was harmless. But her body had changed, and she didn't realize that her old habits might now be quietly causing irritation, discomfort, and even loss of sensitivity. I'm Dr. Lia Parker. I've been a gynecologist for more than 30 years, but I'm also a woman in my late 50s, which means I've felt some of these same changes myself. And today, I want to speak to you woman to woman about something we almost never talk about, but that deserves to be said out loud. In this video, I'm going to share 5 gentle, practical tips for keeping your self-pleasure safe, satisfying, and deeply connected to your body's needs right now. These aren't just medical guidelines. They are lessons learned from decades of listening to women's stories, and sometimes from making my own mistakes. By the end, you'll not only understand how your body changes after 60, but you'll have 5 clear ways to protect your sensitivity, your comfort, and your confidence. And I'll tell you about the one habit that silently robs more women of pleasure than anything else I've seen. Let's start with something that surprises almost everyone, that your body's arousal rhythm has changed. And that's not a bad thing. Tip 1. Learn your new arousal rhythm. When we were younger, arousal often felt automatic. A quick kiss, a thought, a touch, and the body responded. After 60, that pattern often changes. Blood flow is slower, hormones have shifted, and nerves take their time. I've felt it myself. One night, I tried to use my old shortcut, the exact same quick, targeted touch I'd used for years, and nothing happened. My first thought, what's wrong with me? But nothing was wrong. My body was just telling me it needed a slower, softer beginning. The truth is, your arousal isn't gone, it's simply a slower dance now. Instead of diving straight in, start with areas away from your most sensitive spot, your inner thighs, your stomach, your neck. Let sensation build like a tide instead of forcing it like a switch. As you relearn your rhythm, think of warmth spreading the way sunlight crosses a room at the end of the day. The skin may feel cooler at first. Then, with gentle strokes and unhurried breathing, there is a comfortable heaviness, a supple fullness, a subtle change in texture that tells you the tissue is ready. After menopause, the tiny arteries that feed the vulva and clitoris are less elastic. They still respond, but they prefer a longer introduction, music that starts soft and gathers, not a drumbeat that begins at full volume. If you give yourself those extra minutes, your body often answers with deeper and steadier sensation, and the soreness that sometimes follows a rushed session quietly disappears. The goal is not to chase the old spark, it is to discover the new glow and let your nervous system settle into it without pressure or judgment. Tip 2. Treat it as emotional care, not just physical relief. Many women tell me they self-pleasure only when they feel like it, but after 60, it often serves another purpose entirely. Your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin during orgasm. These chemicals can calm anxiety, lift mood, and even help you sleep. I'll admit, there have been nights where I wasn't in the mood at all, but I still took a few minutes for myself. And afterward, I felt more relaxed, more grounded. That's because for women at this stage of life, self-pleasure can be as much about emotional balance as about sexual relief. But here's where many go wrong. They do it on autopilot. They reach the end, but they don't feel truly satisfied. If you approach it without awareness, you miss out on half the benefit. So the next time you take that time for yourself, slow down, breathe deep, let it be a moment of connection, not just a mechanical act. You'll walk away, not only more relaxed, but more in touch with yourself. There is a small ritual that helps. Before you begin, pause at the edge of the bed, feel your feet on the floor, and notice the weight of your body supported by the mattress. Maybe there is the faint clean smell of laundry, or a whisper of your favorite lotion. Take a breath that fills the ribs all the way to the back. When your hand meets skin, let the first touches be exploratory, like greeting a dear friend you have not seen in a while. This is not performance. This is company. Your pulse slows, the shoulders soften, the jaw releases, and what begins as a private practice becomes emotional housekeeping, a gentle clearing inside, so you can rest. Women often tell me that when they approach it with this mindset, their sleep is easier, their patience longer the next day, and their sense of self more intact. That is not vanity, that is health. Tip 3. Remember the use it or lose it principle. Our muscles stay strong when we use them, our joints stay mobile when we move them, and our intimate tissues stay healthy when we keep them active. Without regular stimulation, blood flow slows, tissues become thinner, and elasticity fades. I've seen women go years without touching themselves, believing that intimacy is behind them, but when they decide to reconnect, they often find that comfort and sensation are harder to recover. The good news is, you don't need daily sessions or intense orgasms to maintain your health. Even gentle short moments of self-touch, a couple of times a week, keep blood flowing, nerves alert, and tissues more elastic. Think of it as your intimate wellness routine, no less important than walking or stretching. There is a study that has stayed with me over the years, because it put numbers to what so many patients describe. In a JAMA paper from 1983, led by Leibblum and colleagues, 52 postmenopausal women were examined by gynecologists, who scored signs of vaginal atrophy, while blood tests measured common hormones. The women who were sexually active, whether alone or with a partner, showed less atrophy than those who were inactive, suggesting that regular arousal and tissue engagement help preserve comfort and pliability, even when estrogen is low. The takeaway is not pressure, it is permission. Gentle use supports gentle health, and small steady choices matter just as much as occasional long sessions. I'm going to say something that might make you look twice at your bedside drawer. High-powered vibrators are not the enemy, but over-relying on them can be. Here's what happens. Intense, focused vibration teaches your nerves to expect one very specific kind of stimulation. Over time, gentler touch may feel muted or unsatisfying. I know, because it happened to me. For a while I reached for the same device every time. It was quick, it was easy, until I realized my own hands didn't feel the same anymore. The solution isn't to give them up completely, but to mix things up. Use different rhythms, alternate with your hands, change the areas you touch. Think of it like keeping your taste buds alive. Variety keeps your senses awake. Variety is not about tricks, it is about waking up different pathways, so your body does not rely on a single doorway to pleasure. The clitoral network is broad, branching like a river beneath the surface. What you feel on the outside is only part of the story. Sometimes a slow, circular touch that never quite lands on the same spot will invite a soft spreading warmth. Sometimes tracing along the inner thighs, the curve just below the hip bone, or the soft skin at the base of the spine, will wake up signals that drift inward in their own time. If you do keep a favorite device nearby, lower the intensity, and let the edges of the sensation do the work rather than the highest setting. Give yourself days where your hands lead, days where you explore temperature with a warm bath beforehand, and days where you build a slower rhythm to see how your body answers when it is not. Many women are surprised to find sensitivity returning, as though a dimmer switch is turned gently back up across the entire area. Tip 5. See self-pleasure as essential, not optional. Too many women think self-pleasure is a luxury they can skip, but at this stage of life, it's a form of self-care, as vital as eating well or moving your body. It keeps your tissues healthy, your confidence intact, and your connection to your sensual self alive. When you stop entirely, you risk more than just physical changes. You risk losing a part of your identity, the part that still feels desire, still responds, still knows you're alive. You don't have to set aside long sessions or chase the perfect orgasm every time. What matters is staying in touch, literally, with that part of yourself. Even a few mindful minutes can remind you that you are still whole, still vibrant, still worthy of pleasure. I often ask women to imagine this like watering a beloved houseplant. It does not need a dramatic soak each time to thrive. It needs consistent. A small glass given regularly keeps the leaves glossy and the stems strong. Your intimate health responds the same way. If a week slips by, you have not failed. Simply return, kindly, the way you would tend to anything living that matters to you. Over time, the baseline comfort improves. The tiny muscles of the pelvic floor feel more responsive, and your sense of being at home in your own body quietly strengthens. Tip 6. Use enough lubrication, and choose the right kind. This is a habit many women overlook, and it can quietly cause trouble. As estrogen decreases, natural lubrication often lessens, and the vaginal lining becomes more delicate. Without additional moisture, friction can create micro tears, tiny, invisible cuts that sting later, burn with urination, or increase the chance of irritation and infection. Some women tell me they never needed lubricant in their younger years, and assume they still do not. But needs change, and there is no badge for going without. The right slip between skin and skin can be the difference between something that nourishes and something that leaves you sore the next morning. If you are not sure where to begin, think simple and kind. A water-based option is usually easiest on sensitive tissue and cleans up quickly, especially if you also use pelvic floor exercises or moisturizers during the week. For a longer session, a silicone-based option can maintain glide without repeated reapplication. Fragrances, warming sensations, or products with heavy additives can seem appealing on the shelf, but they often irritate. If you are prone to yeast infections, avoid glycerin. If you have very sensitive skin, test a pea-sized amount on the inner wrist or the soft crease of the elbow for an hour before using it intimately. When you apply it, do not rush. Let your fingers spread it like a balm across the external tissue first, then add a little more as you go. Notice how comfort changes when there is generous glide. Notice how you can slow down without that scratchy feeling that makes you push for the finish. Many women tell me that once they experience pain-free touch again, their body's desire returns in a natural, unforced way. Tip 7. Do not ignore pain, itching, or new numbness. This is the habit that worries me the most, because it tempts women to go quiet when their bodies are asking for attention. This is where Susan's story comes in. Susan, age 69, sat across from me one winter morning, the pale light from the window catching the silver threads in her hair. She described her usual self-pleasure routine in a matter-of-fact voice, and then paused, searching for the right word. "It feels muted," she said, "like there is a thin layer of fabric between my hand and my skin." It had been that way for months. Some days there was a faint itch that came and went, and sometimes a pinprick burn after she used the bathroom. She had told herself not to make a fuss. On the night that finally brought her in, she sat on the edge of her bed, touching gently, and realized she could not tell where the most sensitive area began and ended. The old map was fuzzy. The quilt on her bed felt rougher than usual under her legs. The lotion that used to soothe felt like nothing at all. That sensation, or lack of it, frightened her. When we examined her, she had early signs of lichen sclerosis, a condition that can thin and scar delicate skin if it goes untreated. We began a treatment plan, and we spoke about changing how she approached touch during healing. We also spoke about courage, because it takes courage to come in and say that something private is not right. A few months later, she returned with tears in her eyes, this time relieved. "I feel like myself again," she said. "I wish I had listened sooner." Your body has a way of whispering before it raises its voice. If you notice a new itch that does not match a simple irritation, a stinging that lingers after pleasure, a pale patch of skin that looks shiny or fragile, or a spreading numbness that makes you press harder to feel anything at all, do not wait a year. Ask for an exam. Early attention often means simpler treatment, faster relief, and more comfortable self-pleasure in the long run. And while you are seeking help, be gentle with yourself. Use plenty of lubrication. Keep touch slow and light. If a technique that used to feel good suddenly feels wrong, change course. You are not weak for pausing. You are wise. As you take these 7 pieces together, notice how they form a circle rather than a straight line. Learning your new rhythm invites you to slow down, and slowing down helps you feel the emotional care instead of just the mechanic. Seeing it as care makes it easier to return consistently, and returning consistently helps your tissues stay healthier. As that old study reminded us, healthier tissue makes varied sensation possible again, and varied sensation pairs naturally with generous lubrication, which protects skin that may be drier than it used to be. Finally, all of this is anchored by listening closely for any whisper of discomfort so you can respond. None of this is about perfection. It is about steadiness, patience, and a tender kind of attention we rarely offer ourselves. I want to circle back to Ellen for a moment, because her story began this conversation. After we spoke, she made a few small changes. She warmed up slowly, not because she was broken, but because she was wise. She added a simple scent-free lubricant that made everything feel like silk again instead of sandpaper. She left the highest setting on her vibrator alone for a while, and let her hands. She approached it as a calming ritual, rather than a race. A month later she returned and said something that made us both smile. "I had no idea it could feel like this at my age," she said. "It is softer, but somehow deeper." There was no shame in her voice, only relief, and a quiet kind of pride that she had listened to herself. So there you have them. 5 tips that I've learned from decades of listening to women's stories, and from living in this changing body myself, along with 2 more habits that often go unnoticed, but make a world of difference when we adjust them. Learn your new arousal rhythm. Treat self-pleasure as emotional care, not just physical release. Remember the use it or lose it principle. Keep your sensitivity alive with variety. See self-pleasure as essential, not optional. Use enough lubrication, and choose the right kind. And do not ignore pain, itching or changes in sensation. Your sexuality is not an age-limited chapter, it's part of your whole story, and the way you care for it now can shape how it feels in the years to come. If this conversation has been helpful, I'd love to keep it going. If you would like to see a video on mini daily routine ideas, showing exactly how women can adapt their habits in small practical ways, let me know in the comments. I would be honored to create that for you. Share your thoughts, tell me what resonated, or pass this along to a friend who might need it. And if you'd like more warm practical guidance for women over 60, subscribe. I'd be honored to have you in our circle, because no matter your age, you deserve to feel, to touch, and to be deeply connected to yourself.